Welcome back to Poorly Educated Today in the News. You ever notice how every time the world starts acting normal, somebody somewhere hits the geopolitical hornet's nest with a baseball bat wrapped in fireworks? It's like we collectively decided calm was overrated. So now everything from oil prices to pigs with Instagram accounts is trying to explain reality to us. Today we're going to talk about war, money, science, sports, and one extremely opinionated pig who apparently communicates better than most politicians. Let's get into it. Segment 1. Oil prices and the world's most expensive game of chicken. The situation in the Middle East right now feels like somebody shook up a soda can labeled global economy and handed it to the most dramatic people on Earth. The Strait of Hormuz is basically the gas station for the planet. And right now, everybody is nervously watching to see whether somebody lights a match next to the pump. Oil prices are jumping like a cat on a hot tin roof. Fertilizer costs are rising, and suddenly eggs cost enough that chickens are starting to unionize. It's amazing how fast international conflict turns into you staring at a grocery receipt, wondering if lettuce is now a luxury item. Now look, I ain't no economist, but when the world's biggest powers start arguing near the place where 1/5 of the oil travels, even my cousin Randy knows gas is about to cost more than a fishing boat. Markets are sliding, inflation is heating back up, and suddenly politicians are talking about biofuels like corn is going to personally drive us to work. That's the kind of logic that feels like fixing a tornado with duct tape and optimism. We're all just standing at the pump watching the numbers climb faster than a squirrel on espresso. Segment 2. Government shutdowns and cheesesteaks fixing federal policy. Meanwhile, here at home, the Department of Homeland Security just went through a 42-day shutdown that somehow resulted in TSA agents being fed cheesesteaks by volunteers trying to break a world record. Nothing says functional government like airport security surviving on sandwich charity, while politicians argue about funding like two raccoons fighting over a shiny hubcap. Imagine explaining to George Washington that in the future, national security depends on hoagies and Guinness World Records compliance rules. And the weird part is, they partially funded the department, but left certain agencies out like somebody ordering a combo meal but refusing the fries on principle. That led to ICE agents working airport security, which feels like rearranging the furniture during an earthquake. The whole thing proves that government budgeting now operates on the same logic as group texts, where nobody wants to admit who forgot to pay the bill. Eventually, somebody buys the cheesesteaks and pretends that solved the problem. Segment 3. Surveillance, lawsuits, and the government reading your mind through your phone. Congress is now arguing with federal agencies about whether it's okay to buy people's location data from data brokers without a warrant, which sounds an awful lot like saying, "We didn't spy on you. We just bought the map to your life from a guy named Chad on the internet." Apparently, your phone knows more about you than your mama, your doctor, and your search history combined, which is terrifying considering my phone once autocorrected cornbread to cornbread, which sounds like a loaf that votes. Minnesota is suing the federal government over deadly enforcement operations, and now we got states arguing with the feds like divorced parents fighting over who ruined Thanksgiving. The deeper point buried under all the yelling is that technology is moving faster than the rules meant to control it, which means the law is basically chasing a Ferrari while riding a lawnmower. At this point, the Constitution might need software updates. Segment 4. AI, energy, and computers that need their own power plant. Artificial intelligence is now using so much electricity that tech companies are basically becoming part-time utility companies. These data centers are eating power like teenage boys eat pizza, and suddenly the future of computing depends on whether the electrical grid can survive everybody asking chatbots what raccoons would look like if they had jobs. Turns out, building the future requires enough electricity to power small cities, which explains why every tech conference now sounds like a conversation between engineers and power plant managers. Companies are buying healthcare software so AI can help doctors predict illnesses, manage records, and hopefully stop WebMD from convincing everyone they have 19 rare diseases and possibly ghost possession. The irony is, we built machines to solve problems, and now the biggest problem is keeping the machines plugged in. Somewhere Nikola Tesla is watching all this and wondering why we didn't just listen the first time. Segment 5. Science breakthroughs while the world argues about everything else. Scientists just pulled off a personalized gene editing treatment that saved a baby's life, which honestly sounds like something from a sci-fi movie where the robot also somehow understands sarcasm. Researchers also discovered a cellular mechanism tied to Parkinson's disease, meaning medicine is now operating at microscopic levels that would make your high school biology teacher weep tears of vindication. Meanwhile, half the internet is still debating whether drinking celery juice gives you superpowers. It's wild that while governments argue and markets panic, scientists are quietly out here rewriting the instruction manual for human health, like mechanics fixing an engine while the car is still driving down the highway. We are simultaneously the smartest species in history, and also the only species that needs warning labels on ladders. Progress is messy, but at least somebody is doing something productive besides arguing on social media. Segment 6. Talking pigs, sports drama, and the universe making fun of us. And finally, a pig named Merlin now communicates using sound buttons and has over 1 million followers online, which means a farm animal now has better audience engagement than most cable news shows. This pig can apparently express emotions and request snacks, which frankly sounds like most influencers already. Somewhere there's a philosopher trying to figure out whether the pig understands language or just understands snacks, which honestly describes half of human communication too. At the same time, sports organizations are making controversial policy decisions. College basketball fans are losing their minds over brackets. And an 8th grader somehow predicted every game correctly, which statistically makes him either a genius or a time traveler. The world is full of serious issues, but we still find time to argue about sports, cheer for talking pigs, and pretend we know how brackets work. Civilization may wobble, but we will absolutely keep filling out tournament sheets like it's our civic duty. In conclusion, the modern world feels like a tractor held together with duct tape driving through a hurricane of breaking news, technological breakthroughs, political drama, and the occasional opinionated pig. We're navigating wars, economic shocks, scientific miracles, and sports arguments all at the same time, which honestly explains why everybody feels slightly confused all the time. But somehow society keeps moving forward, powered by equal parts innovation, stubbornness, and the faint hope that tomorrow's headlines involve fewer missiles and more talking farm animals.